Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's trending episode. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Gareth. Today's show is brought to you by Red Life Therapy. For healing at a cellular level, head over to redlifedevices.com and use the code Ickonic for 10% off. I'm getting quicker and quicker at saying that, although I'm slightly out of breath now already.
It's the 22nd time you said it, so...
Right. Well, let's kick off. Okay, so Kier Starmer, ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. It's not a story we need to focus on for a long time, but I do want to mention it because he's now been accused of breaking lockdown rules, the same lockdown rules that he was demanding the head of Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak for breaking when they were in power. Now, I don't really care that people break the rules. I broke the rules. And I actually think that Kier Starmer, Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, all of them, they all broke the rules for the same reason I did, which was that they know it's nonsense and they knew it was nonsense, right? The difference is I didn't dress up like a plonker in a welder's mask and pretend it wasn't a load of nonsense and tell people that they had to, not mix with family members over Christmas and all that kind of stuff. Now, so the hypocrisy of it is one thing. So he's hired a vocal coach that he's had for years, apparently. She was an actress in Bergerac, which I remember from the 80s. I'm showing me age. Now, obviously, people are demanding his head for this. So I wonder if there's more to it, whether it's one of those things that they've allowed to be released because it distracts.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Because I think, if for instance, if I've done something bad, then the perfect thing to do is to distract you with, say, something Jay's done, because then I totally am away from it. But every now and then, if I've done something really bad or something really bad's about to happen, I can distract you with something slightly bad.
Yep.
I did. And so just today they've announced that energy prices are going up again. The energy cap is going to go up to 30%. Bear in mind, we pay the highest energy prices on the planet as it is, even though we are an island nation sat on a coal field with oil deposits. We're surrounded by a sea full of gas. But because apparently cow farts change the weather, we're absolutely brassic. So he's obviously going to want to distract people from that. He's also going to want to distract people from the council tax hike, which we discussed in last week's show. The fact that actually they're breaking the law in the way that they're raising the taxes, because council tax I think can go up by 5% by law. I think that's the limit.
Yes.
Yet some of these council tax hikes are up towards 25% because they found some legal loophole in order to shaft the population. Now, the other thing for me is the fact that he's had a vocal coach. Now, if anyone's ever heard Kier Starmer, he's had a vocal coach since 2017, right? Now, I hope he kept the receipts, right? Because after that many years of vocal coaching and having it so often that he doesn't stop for lockdown, she still comes around the house over the Christmas period when no one else is allowed to see family members. She still comes around because she's that good. And yet he still sounds like Zippy from Rainbow. I'd be asking for my money back. Now, on the subject of Kier Starmer, here's Kier Starmer talking in Parliament about how he's going to get Britain building again.
Oh, I can do that. I'm very good at building. I'll show you. Yeah.
Hey!
So there you go.
It's hilarious, isn't it, mate?
It's a joke.
It is
really
hilarious.
is. It just goes to show they had access to the best scientists.
Yep.
And they broke the rules because they knew it was nonsense.
Well, it's like the whole Partygate scandal is a simple question. Is do you believe these people were just sort of stupid enough to take such a risk and risk all their lives just for a party? Or did they know it was complete BS anyway the whole time and therefore knew there was nothing to be scared about and just cracked on as normal while people died in care homes that weren't allowed to see their family. People died of suicide because they were so isolated and couldn't see family and friends. Businesses went under. Kids were psychologically traumatized by the lack of social interaction. Yeah, and these guys are still in positions of power and influence. And Starmer, do you know what annoys me about? Well, a lot annoys me about Starmer, but a lot annoys me about Starmer's mindset, which, without making it a right and left divide, a lot of the left, the sort of progressive left, seem to have. Is this sense of moral superiority that we are better, we are kind, we are thoughtful, we're compassionate, and the other guys aren't. Well, hang on a minute. He wanted harder and faster lockdowns whilst flaunting these rules. They do the same things in terms of taking money from lobby groups and Big Pharma that the other side do. Yeah. They do the same thing in terms of giving contracts to their mates like the other side do. It's it annoys me more when it comes from this mindset, because if you were just coming out going, you know what, I'm a politician, I'll take money from wherever I can get and I'll sort my mates out, you'd almost have more respect for at least being open about it. Yeah. But trying to pretend to be this pseudo-caring, lovey-dovey, all we want to do is look after you, we'll get Britain, fix the foundations when it was his thing. And
whatever he was told by Klaus Schwab to say.
Exactly. It annoys me more because it's so disingenuous. And you don't even have to be an intelligent person to look at Kier Starmer speaking or any of his front bench speaking and see that it's so disingenuous, see that it's so fake, see that it's so forced. It's pathetic.
Well, it's
absolutely
so inverted.
pathetic.
I mean, my thing, like I've said it for years actually, I subscribe to no political party, I have no allegiance whatsoever, two cheeks of the same backside, but at the same time, I've always had slightly more respect for the Tories based purely on the fact that they don't even pretend they're not arseholes.
No, absolutely not. No, they don't.
Whereas the Labour Party, they do have this moral superiority. And, you know, people forget just how ridiculous it was during COVID. At this time when they were breaking the rules because they had no fear, because they knew it was nonsense, you know, kids died alone in hospital beds. The parents weren't allowed to be with them. Or if they were, only one parent was. So we'll choose between whether mum can be with you when you die or dad. While this scumbag's getting vocal coaching off of a woman from Bergerac. I mean, for crying out loud. Yeah, no, honestly, mate.
It's disgusting how anybody that has behaved that way can, you know, have any sense of superiority morally, emotionally, all of those things, but let alone stand in front of Parliament and tell you it's going to be a tough winter, you know, it's the cost of living this, we're going to fix it, we're going to help you, we're going to take care of you, we're going to get Britain back. I mean, how anyone listens to that bloke and has anything but contempt for him, I'll never understand.
Every pledge, we won't put up council tax. Done it. We will scrap tuition fees, put them up. We won't scrap the winter fuel allowance for pensioners, scrapped it. You will save £600 a year on your energy bills if you vote Labour. Energy bills going up again.
Stop the boats, smash the gangs.
What's the point?
Well, they say what they need to say to get an election. See, that's where, and as much as I don't like reform and I don't like Nigel Farage, the wording of their manifesto calling it a contract, exactly how it should be. You should, when you win an election, you should have a contract with the population and you follow through on it. It's like, you know, if you're hired by somebody to work in a company, in any job, based on a job description, and you turn up and go, actually, no, I don't fancy editing films today, I fancy presenting a show. It's like, well, that's not your job, mate. You're out of a job. So the idea that you get elected as a prime minister or any minister, any party, based on a series of promises, and you just think within minutes, literally within minutes, they turn around and go, actually, I'm not going to do that anymore. And that's just okay. And the next 5 years will just go by until there's another election and the same side and the other side and whatever side in between will do exactly the same thing again. And there's no repercussions for not doing what you've said.
No, it's ridiculous.
It is absolutely disgusting.
Like, you say, like using that analogy of applying for a job. It's like applying for a job as, say, a video editor. And then you come in, you go, actually, I can't video edit.
Yeah.
And still expecting to stay there. It is extraordinary. It is,
but that's politics, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately. Right, so we're going to cover this story, which is a win and also a laughable defeat, but not really a defeat. It's just hilarious. So we've covered these Ozempic weight loss jabs heavily in this show because it's very, very important because they're causing so much damage to people. We mentioned last week that they were being given out in pharmacies like candy with basically no safeguards, which Gaz pointed out how dangerous that could be for people suffering with things like anorexia, people that have various different issues like kidney disease, which these jabs are meant to massively amplify. So since then, this story has come out. Pharmacies require stricter weight loss jab checks. Online pharmacies will now have to employ stricter codes to stop people who are already a healthy weight or have a history of eating disorders from buying the weight loss jabs. They'll no longer be able to dispense the medication to patients who have just completed an online questionnaire or sent photos. I love that. You could get a jab from sending the photos. And so you don't even how do they even know that's you? You could fill in a questionnaire and find a photo of somebody overweight, even if you're not, and send it in and get these until this story. Anyway, so you will need an in-person or video consultation, which is still not ideal, to verify BMI. I don't know how they're working out your BMI or body fat through an online consultation. But anyway, this is at least better than it was before. So that's great. That's a step one. It's like we've said about a few of the wins in the last couple of weeks. It's not as far as we want, but it's step one. It's a walk towards the right direction.
They weren't really given a choice, were they, Jay? Given the number of side effects that were coming out of these drugs. Unbelievable.
They were, and it was starting to become quite mainstream. However, on one hand giveth, others taken away. The Ozempic, which is one of the brands of these fat jabs, for alcohol. It's the pill that can stop you reaching for the bottle of wine. You need that. Just as...
Cheers, mate.
Just as fat jabs stop you craving, and now experts say it should be widely prescribed on the NHS. So it's dangerous if you're overweight, but if you like a drink too many, then it's absolutely fine. That definitely won't affect your organs, will it?
Well, it makes me think, like, what is it about this drug that they want in people? Because if you release a drug and it's causes horrendous effects instead of side effects, they are just effects, as this has. Take it off the market, chuck it in the bin. But they go, oh, okay, we'll make it harder to get. Okay, but oh no, we'll use it for this. So that's a question I'd ask. What is in this drug? What other effects is it having on people that the lunatic class will find desirable? The other thing as well, in terms of alcohol, it's an interesting one, because when you mentioned to me about the fact that they were going to give it to help people who struggled with alcohol addiction and drug addiction as well, it made me think, well, how is it helping? Is it because it makes you feel so ill that you don't want a pint when you're going through kidney failure? And the other thing is, there is a drug out there already that they use. I think the brand name is Antabuse, or Anti-Booze would make more sense, wouldn't it? But Antabuse, and it actually makes you sick. Right. So if you're an alcoholic, and you have a few drinks or whatever, if you're on this particular drug, it will make you vomit. It will make you violently sick. So it's supposed to deter you from having a beer because you're going to be ill. But then I look at it and I go, but that's just treating the symptom, because alcohol is the symptom. So what is it that's causing it? Whether it be a psychological thing, an emotional thing, what's that person been through, what concerns, what stress levels. It's just kind of like, your life has gone to such a point that you're reaching for the bottle, so we're just going to make it taste rubbish. But that's not solving the problem.
No, it's not. And that's all Western medicine knows how to do, is treat symptoms. And symptoms invariably have nothing to do with the cause of the problem. Hence why things like reflexology and, different parts of your feet are reflected to different organs. Hence why acupuncture and things like that work. Because it's very clear that things that, may appear as a symptom in one place can be, completely unrelated. My leg's hanging off and I'm in pain and I have painkillers. Okay, my symptom of pain's gone, but my leg's still hanging off.
Yeah.
So if you're in a state where, there was another story that I nearly brought in this morning, might bring it tomorrow, to do with side effects of antidepressant drugs and how suicide is actually one of them.
Yeah.
If you are suffering with depression, it's not because you necessarily need chemical drugs, it's because you have something going on in your life that is making you feel a certain way. It might be a deficiency in a mineral or a vitamin. It might be your life circumstances, whatever it might be. Again, if you're overweight, no one has gone to bed a healthy weight and woken up overweight and gone, geez, what's happened here? It's been a gradual process over a period of time that has been caused by poor life choices for one of many reasons. Not judging anybody. People that have very stressful lives don't have as much time to eat, or stress eat, and alcohol is exactly the same. Whether it's a nice glass of wine with a steak or something, and that's a healthy balance, or whether it's I need a bottle of wine at the end of the night just to be able to sleep. I need 10 pints over the weekend to forget my life. That's the alcohol is almost like it's the pseudo remedy. It's not the problem. The problem is further back, and by giving out any kind of medication, it's not going to solve the problem. What really needs to happen with people in these conditions is they need someone to sit down and spend longer than 10 minutes with them in a GP office, understand what is going on in their lives, and therefore try and unpick that and unpack those problems and deal with them one by one and make a life-changing situation that's going to change long term. Because if you like you said about these fat jabs, you take one, you might lose weight, but you're not going to stop eating rubbish, because what's your incentive to do that? Because you can carry on as normal. So the health of you is not going to increase. You might just look a bit better in the mirror for 5 minutes till your kidney fails. So same with these, weight loss. So same with these alcohol things. It's not getting away that dependency. It's just making you not want it because, like you said, it tastes rubbish. It's not solving whatever problem you may have going on that's making you want to drink.
Yeah, I think for me, alcohol I've always thought it just sort of amplifies whatever your mood
is. Yeah,
you go out after your team's just won the cup and have 10 pints. It'll be the night of your life. You go out after your wife's just left you and have 10 pints. Do you know what I mean? You're going to feel worse than you did before you had the first one. So yeah, again, it's another treating the symptom, I think, and like Jay makes the point, that's Western medicine in a nutshell. Okay, so moving on, quite a big leap now. So I don't know if anyone saw this. The president of the United States flew into Washington yesterday to meet with Donald Trump.
President of Israel. Prime Minister of Israel.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
Oh, wow. I see what you've done there.
There we go. Now, straight away, he's given another $1 billion in arms, right? Now, they're not ornaments. Israel doesn't want, these 2,000-pound bombs to hold a door open, they're going to get dropped on children, because that's what's been going on for decades, and particularly what's been going on for the last 17, 18 months. So for me, I look at it and I go, right, okay. So you've got a foreign prime minister who is at this current moment has an ICC arrest warrant out for him for war crimes, right? For killing tens of thousands of civilians, tens of thousands of children, flying into the United States, and then just sitting with the president, or acting president, let's have it right, and he's given $1 billion worth of bombs to go and bomb more people. Now, what I find extraordinary is that's okay because it's Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's the savior, man, so it's absolutely fine. Now, if another prime minister of another country that was bombing children and had an ICC arrest warrant for him came to the United States and had met with Biden, and Biden gave him $1 billion worth of bombs to go and bomb more children, everyone would be doing their nut correctly, because it's insane. But because it's Benjamin Netanyahu, the five-headed war criminal, and the God's savior Donald Trump, it's absolutely fine. It's not a problem.
And it's also because it's Israel, and America have Israel support ingrained into their society. You know, don't
they want to look into that?
They do massively want to look into that. Well, a lot of Americans see Israel as like their little cousin, little brother type thing. They want to look after and make sure they're okay. Hence why it's so ingrained. And it's getting to the point now where I think more people are starting to see through that, because, you know, one of the benefits of the internet is that what's going on over there is being shown a lot more. And even on X, because freedom of speech man's in charge, he finds it difficult, I'd imagine, to censor that content. So you are seeing it in a more widespread way. Yeah. So it is making people question more. You can make a great point. Imagine if, 6 months ago, Assad had come over and sat with Biden and he'd given him £1 billion, $1 billion or whatever. And, obviously we have our opinions on Assad and how he was definitely I don't think it's quite as black and white as they made out with him, but it would have been seen as you're funding terrorism.
Yeah, of course it would.
Yet now, because it's Israel, and you're absolutely right. Secondly, because it's Trump, well, Trump wouldn't do that. Trump's the man. He's the savior. We've got to look after Israel. We're going to stop all foreign aid because, American money should stay in America, except Israel, though. Good example.
They still get it, don't they?
Yeah, like Musk tweeted this morning, how many other countries tax their citizens and then send money to America? Good question. None. Why are you still sending it to Israel then? Yeah. Why were you in Israel 5 minutes after October 7th? To be given your orders, to be given your version of events. You were summoned, absolutely summoned.
And people, if Americans want to see, they look at Israel as their, little brother or whatever. That's fine, whatever. But I would look into what your little brother thinks of you.
Yeah, and I'd look into your little brother on September the 11th, 2001. See the involvement they had in that, and that devastation in New York. See the involvement they had on the USS Liberty and other things over the years, and see if they've got your back.
Well, yeah, and to the British patriots who were, taken to the streets last weekend to demand the release of Tommy Robinson, and for some reason were stitching British flags and Israeli flags together like a half and half scarf. It's extraordinary. See if they know that Israel was selling arms to Argentina during the Falklands War.
Well, yeah, and see if Israeli security firms were manning all the cameras on 7/7 bombings. And so on, all those things that mysteriously went missing.
Folks. Lots of questions.
Lots of questions. And just a final point on that. I think it's the ignorance that the Tommy Robinson kind of fan club, if you like, see Islam and Muslim immigration as the sole problem for what's going on. And I think immigration has a factor, of course. I think ideology of the more Wahhabi extreme Islam definitely is not something that you want in a society, particularly a secular society, if you want peace. However, I think because they see that as the problem, they see Judaism and Israel as the opposite end of that, and therefore we must support that. If we don't like that, we must support that, because they see Israel as this one isolated country in that region of the world that don't have that ideology. Yeah. And therefore they think that's the resistance.
My enemy's enemy is my friend.
Exactly.
Is the attitude. And it's a very dangerous one, I would say.
It's a very dangerous one, and it just goes to show that ignorance is still very, very high when it comes to lots of things, even people that are a little bit more informed than others. Yeah. So moving on, we're talking about money in America. I mentioned Elon Musk. We're going to move on to Elon Musk is DOGE or DOGE, however you pronounce it.
I call it DOGE, but I don't know if that's right. Doge.
Elon Musk's DOGE gains access to treasury payment systems and sparks bureaucratic clash and resignations. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency has gained access to the Department of Treasury's payment systems, handling over $6 trillion annually, leading to the resignation of lots of high officials. The move has sparked controversy over unchecked government spending and so on. So the point to raise here is that what you've got is you've got an unelected technocrat, which, we've spoken a lot over and Dad's spoken a lot over the years about the want of this technocracy of appointed officials. Well, Musk seems like the first one to really actually be that, and it be just in your face. Yep. I think it was shown at the inauguration that you had Bezos, Zuckerberg and Musk sat there as three essentially technocrats that between the three of them control, so much of America. I think $3 for every $10 spent in America is spent on Amazon. Most people get their news daily from either Twitter or Facebook. So, the influence those three men have is absolutely extraordinary. I mean, Bezos got divorced, gave his wife half the money and was still like the third richest man in the world. It's absolutely insane. Anyway.
I wish I'd married him.
So, I don't know, look at him. So obviously the questions here are that you're giving an unelected official control over state money, control over government money, control over where that money is spent. And, I understand why there is the want from a lot of people for this kind of efficiency thing, because governments waste tons and tons and tons of money, billions of dollars, billions of pounds. Every government across the world wastes that on things that are not for the benefit of the population. So if this was a genuine organization that was there to stop that from happening, and money was going down into the grassroots to build up communities, to help support local farms, to help support education and all of those things and people in poverty, absolutely, I'd be all for it. I think most people would. But that's not what's going to happen. Hence how we covered last week, me and Rich did, I think on Friday, that they were cutting money from somewhere, but then JD Vance wanted it to be spent on the military. So it's not really going to be seen by the people that actually need it the most. But this kind of starts the whole conversation about unelected officials and how much influence they should have over policy, because Musk's not accountable. Musk's not had to sit, whether you believe it's a sham or not, as we do, but Musk has not had to sit in Capitol Hill and be confirmed into this position in the same way that your RFKs, Tulsi Gabbards and so on are. He basically is in a position given to him by Trump. All this power is given to him. And there's no checks and balances, in a sense, on what he's doing. So really, he's the president, isn't he? Unless you think Netanyahu is, but probably a combination. But he's the man with the power, officially, really, behind Trump. Because when Trump does something, it's coming from him, invariably, and then it's coming from his backers behind him. So, again, if Biden had done this, if Biden had brought in an unelected person into a position of extreme power of public finances, everyone would have been up in their arms. They'd have been going, what the hell? This is not democracy. This is not what we voted for. Yet once again, because this guy bought Twitter and let a few people back on, people think he's a freedom of speech hero, which just before you come in, Gaz, Dad pointed this out. I remember I was with him. We were in the True Geordie podcast guy's house, right? And he was asking, what's the play about Musk? What's the play with him? Why are they making him? Why would he buy Twitter? Why would he do this? And this was probably about 18 months ago. So before he started supporting Trump, before he started really talking about politics, and definitely before he started this DOGE group. And I remember Dad saying to give him credibility among the alternative thinkers. It gets him in the door, that they see him as this freedom of speech hero. He's one of us. Look what he's done. So therefore, when he does what he's actually there to do, people won't say a word.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing what power you can get by allowing people to call someone with pink hair a prat on social media.
Yeah,
it's basically what
it
he
is.
did. For me, I look at Musk and I look at X and the new verification, all that kind of stuff. The fact that he wants this everything app, basically. I look at X as quite a big data harvest as well.
Absolutely.
I think, to be honest, you can apply that to most social media. I also look at, some of the freedom of speech stuff is actually you're allowing people to go to serious levels with a lot of stuff that I think will then be brought back to bite people in the backside.
Well, yeah, like you couldn't criticize Israel at all yet. In the last year, there's been really extreme stuff on Twitter that even we would say goes too far.
Yeah, I mean...
And it's gone without checks.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, the conversations about, Zionism and the Zionist project and the Greater Israel and all this sort of stuff and the Kaleji plan, like people would have these conversations and they get censored for them. it's gone beyond that now to the fact that, it's the Jews is very commonly spoken about. And I think that's going to come back and bite people. And I think that's intentional. It's almost like they're trying to get people to say stuff. They're goading people to say stuff that then later on they will go back and, let's revisit some things you said 2 years ago. I think, that's something to be aware of. And so when I read this story that obviously Jay brought today about the DOGE, it's talking about it, blah, 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 blah. And then this is the bit that got me. It said he's gained access to classified material and sensitive details about millions of Americans. That was the takeaway for me. Yep. Was that okay? So I think X is there's quite a lot of data harvesting going on with X. Now this guy has got access to personal information of millions of Americans. So I imagine that will be obviously financial. So that will be what they're buying, where they're buying it, what they're receiving in terms of government grants and X, Y, and Z. So it seems to me like a lot of these different things are connected, that they're building this picture of Americans, and this will apply to everywhere else as well, so that they can apply this later on into this social credit system, which we know they want.
Yeah, we do know they want. The other thing, am I right in thinking that there's X payments coming soon as well?
Yeah.
Didn't you get a message, I think you forwarded it on to me, about a banking crash within a week or so of that going live?
Yeah, it was a theory,
a prediction,
that was based on a lot of information that we got sent that said basically there will be a banking crash within, was it 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that of X payments? I don't know. That's someone's theory, but at the end of the day, I think it's quite obvious now that a digital currency, an AI system, all of this stuff is coming in the back door. That actually, if the left, left, right, whatever, but if Biden say Harris had got in, if she was pushing it, there'd be a lot of pushback against it. For instance, if 5 years ago, that version of Mark Zuckerberg, the censorship one, because obviously he's been rebranded now, but the censorship Mark Zuckerberg, if he'd taken over this part of the treasury and had access to all this stuff, or if Jack Dorsey had control of it and was given it by Biden, people would be going absolutely ballistic.
Would, yeah.
But because it's Trump and he's the alternative, and because it's Musk and he let me call a pink-haired person a knobhead, then suddenly it's a good thing. But it's not. It's sneaking it in the back door.
It is. Do you remember when Musk and Zuckerberg were going to have a fight? Do you remember that?
So weird, mate.
So weird. I'd back Zuckerberg in that. He does karate or something, doesn't he? No. But I think what's also really important to point out here is that for years, the left, if you like, if you want to say the left, the sort of woke mentality, anyone they didn't like, they used to do things like doxing, where they would just relentlessly attack someone to try and get them to lose their job or lose their position, all those sorts of things. Well, in a sense, the right, Musk leading that, are now doing stuff that's very similar, where anyone that talks out against something or anyone that resists, they tend to jump on and they tend to attack in a very similar way. It also wouldn't shock me if having access to all this information, access to where money's going in terms of grants and funding, as you mentioned, is for that then to just be made public, that these people are getting this, these people are getting that, these people are getting that, and therefore making them targets.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
No, it really wouldn't surprise me.
Again, it's the sales pitch that we speak about all the time. This is the reason we're doing it, and actually this is the reason we're doing it. But the idea of looking at government spending, like you say, that's a good thing, because they do, in the words of the Eton mess, Boris Johnson, they do spaff money up the wall on absolute nonsense. And so it does need looking at, but, that's not why they're doing it.
No, it's not why they're doing it. Complete transparency. Every single penny that the government spend is out there for everybody to see. Maybe, and you almost had like a voting system where you voted where it went. That would be a little bit more objective, and people would have more influence on where their money goes.
Yeah, I think government should be as transparent as Kanye West's partner's dress.
Jeez, we can't get into that, man. That's for another day. That dominated the news yesterday, didn't it?
All the important stuff.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for tuning in with us this morning. Today's show was brought to you in association with Ape Nutrition, bringing British organic specialist food supplements onto the market. Head over to apenutrition.co.uk and use the code Ickonic Media for 10% off. We've got a brand new sponsor starting tomorrow. We're very excited to share with you, and we'll see you then.
See you then. Bye.